The Chosen just dropped the first official teaser for Season 4, and I could not be more excited. I mean, if you've already seen the teaser, it looks incredible. Also, my tissues budget is going out the window. This little teaser was, as teasers are, only a minute and a half long, but there are so many little details packed in there for us to break down in today's video, which is what I'm going to be doing right here. I'm going to be breaking down over 50 details that we can pull from this teaser trailer for The Chosen Season 4. Get hints of Caesarea Philippi, conversation with Jesus and Gaius, and Big James getting very hurt. Also, stick around to the end of this video because I will be sharing the release dates for the Chosen episodes because all of them are going to be released in theaters. With that said, let's go ahead and roll that intro. Hello, my name is Eli Hollingsworth from Against the Current, a The Chosen podcast, the biggest and I believe first podcast about the Chosen TV series exclusively. If you check out my channel, all of my videos are about the Chosen. That's all we talk about here. We're talking about Season 4, Season 3, all episodes of the Chosen I have reviewed on my podcast, link down below in the description. If you want to go check that out and hear my thoughts, I've talked about a lot of other things. Also, I've interviewed the one and only Dallas Jenkins, creator, director, and writer of The Chosen. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check that out on my channel. And let's go ahead and roll that first clip.
It's time.
What wondrous love is this? Oh, my
Listen carefully to my
soul.
words.
Oh, my soul.
There are those for whom this will set off a series of events.
So starting right off here, we have a clip of Jesus standing in a field probably contemplating about how he's going to die soon or about how Lazarus is going to die soon. We know from Jonathan Rumi and Dallas Jenkins that Jesus is going to be feeling it a lot this season because we're getting closer and closer to the end of the tale, the most gruesome part of one of the most tragic stories in history, but also one of the greatest stories in history, actually the greatest story in history, when Jesus then is, obviously we know he comes back at the end, spoiler alert. Well, Jesus is really feeling the weight here, and he's going to be feeling the weight throughout the season of how things are starting to get real. We're starting to approach his death, and he's really dreading it, as he says later in the trailer. Then we get a clip of Jesus with Thaddeus and little James. This is a clip from a scene that we saw earlier from a live stream. It's a scene where the disciples are arguing about something. We get little hints of Simon and Andrew's parents, and then Thaddeus and little James come out and they're talking with Jesus, and they're both starting to see how things are getting realer. We're approaching the end, and that's what this scene is about. It's a really cool scene, and I can't wait to see it in Season 4. Jesus says it is time. We do get more context for what this might be talking about because he says there are those for whom this will set off a series of events. He's probably referring to the resurrection of Lazarus. After he resurrects Lazarus, then this is what sets off, mainly what sets off the Pharisees then wanting to kill Jesus. We see a shot of Romans giving their stuff to the disciples. Now this is probably a scene that is reference Dallas says is going to be in this season, which is a personification, an illustration of something that Jesus said on the Sermon on the Mount, which is when someone wants you to walk a mile with him, then walk an extra mile. Because in the Roman culture, what the Romans could do at any time is go over to the Jews and say, hey, carry my stuff, and just walk. They were mandatory, had to walk 1 mile with this Roman soldier carrying their stuff. So then Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount to show gratitude and kindness to walk an extra mile. So this scene is going to be the Romans giving maybe some of their stuff to the disciples, having them walk a mile, and then we can hear the disciples talk with them. It's going to be a very exciting scene. I can't wait to see it. And also I want to point out the song they used here, What Wondrous Love Is This, is a song asking the question of what wondrous love is this, that the Lord would bear the dreadful curse for our sins. Obviously, referencing what a magnificent love it is that Jesus would take on the responsibility to go on the cross and die for our sins so that we can go to heaven. And he took the punishment for our sins, which we are all guilty of and have no hope of overcoming. So, very cool song choice and a very cool vocalization of it. But let's go ahead and roll that next clip.
What wondrous love is this? Oh, my soul.
My followers won't understand. The Son of Man must suffer many things.
Next up here, we have a shot of Salome dancing. Salome is doing this dance for Herod Antipas, who we see later in the trailer, and she is doing this so then she can ask for the head of John the Baptist because I believe it's her mother or her mother-in-law, something like that. She is furious with John the Baptist for calling her out on some mischievous deeds, and she's upset about it. John the Baptist is upset about it, and this is what leads to his death, which we also see. We see shots of Jesus preaching to this crowd. Now, it's unclear if this is the same scene as another scene we know is happening where Jesus rebukes the Pharisees, but Jesus is gathering a crowd here, and he is preaching to these people. And we see a shot of Matthew looking on at Jesus, and this is really cool the way this shot is framed. The cinematography is very awesome. McKees, the director of photography, is very, very talented. And in this scene, you can see out of focus Jesus putting his hands on a blind man. This is Jesus healing the blind man, who we also see later in the trailer. This is going to be a very exciting scene, and we know this is going to be very awesome, as all of the scenes are in The Chosen, so I can't wait to see it. Now, next up, we see the disciples all looking at something that's obviously very frightening, and they're upset, and they're all wet. Now, this comes after a scene that we again see later in the trailer, where something happens to Big James, is all I'll say, and they're all very disturbed about something. Jesus says, "My followers won't understand. The Son of Man must suffer many things." Now, these are two dialogue clips. And we know this because he says, "My followers won't understand," but then he says, "The Son of Man must suffer many things." So the Son of Man must suffer many things is what he says in Caesarea Philippi after Peter declares Jesus as the Son of God, the Son of the living God, and the Messiah. And Jesus says, "You are Peter now." He changed his name from Simon to Peter. But he says, "My followers won't understand." So this clip is from when he's talking to someone else, perhaps Gaius, because we know there's a scene where Jesus talks to Gaius. So these are two dialogue clips pulled and stitched together to try to trick you, but don't let The Chosen trick you. They employ lots of these trailer trickeries, and we're going to see right through them in this breakdown. Then we see John the Baptist being carried by Roman soldiers. We know that he's headed to somewhere very, very bad, and he's meeting his untimely demise here. This is following that scene where Salome dances for Herod Antipas, and then, obviously her mom gets her way, and John the Baptist is, sorry. And finally, we get a shot of Joanna as she's looking distressed. Now, in this season of plotline, she's going to have to go to some party that Herod is hosting, which we see shots of later. And this is what Salome is dancing at, and she doesn't want to go, but she's having some trouble with her husband, and we're going to see more of that plotline in Season 4. Let's go ahead and roll that next clip.
But you are the Son of God.
What wondrous love is this that caused the Lord of bliss?
I know it's hard. Man makes it much harder.
First up, we get this shot of Jesus crying. He's looking very, very distressed. And this is part of that, what I was talking about earlier, where Jesus is starting to feel the weight of what is about to happen, and he is dreading it. And this is a conversation with him and Gaius. We have a behind-the-scenes shot of Jesus and Gaius talking in this location. We know it's the same location, so he's talking to Gaius. Maybe Gaius is the person he says, "My followers won't understand" to, or someone else. But we hear a voiceover of someone saying, "But you are the Son of God." Now, originally, I did think this was Gaius, but if you listen closely, you can hear the accents that most of the characters in the show have that Gaius does not have. So it sounds like maybe it could be Judas. I can't really make out whose voice it is exactly, but it's definitely a Jewish person, or, someone who's not a Roman, actually. So it'll be interesting. You guys let me know who you think this person is down below in the comments. Next up, we get shots of Mary looking in Lazarus' tomb. Now, us hardcore fans know that this is Lazarus' tomb because Lazarus dies at the end of the season. That's where we know we're headed. That's the climax of the season. It's been confirmed by the director. But this might be The Chosen trying to trick the casual fans who maybe don't know that Lazarus' death is where we're headed in Season 4. Maybe trying to trick people into thinking that maybe Jesus is dying already, which is kind of funny. And if you don't know, no, this is not Jesus' tomb. This is Lazarus' tomb. Calm down if you didn't know. We get a shot of Jesus walking with the disciples, and then we have Herod's party, which this is a party you can see fire, and there's people there. This is where Salome does her dance for Herod, and we see the great Herod himself, looking very, very cool and very menacing. Then finally, we have a very interesting shot where Judas is taking money. Now, what I think is that he's taking money from Lazarus here, because if you look in the background, this looks to be Lazarus' home, which we will see later, and Dallas has confirmed, I believe, that Lazarus is going to be very rich. Lazarus is going to have a lot of money, so I think Judas might actually be taking from Lazarus, which would be very interesting here. It looks like he's taking money. He might not even be taking money. It looks like he's taking some out of a pouch and stealing some for himself in a very menacing and Judas-esque way. But we'll just have to see exactly what he's doing here. Hopefully he's not doing something bad, although he probably is. We'll just see how this all unfolds when we get to Season 4. But let's go ahead and roll that next clip.
To bear the dreadful curse.
When he leans on his own understanding.
To bear the dreadful curse.
So we have a shot of Jesus looking up into heaven, contemplating probably, and then we have Lazarus looking at some robes. Now, this might be actually after Lazarus was resurrected. Maybe he's unwrapped himself, and he's looking at these robes of what used to be a dead corpse and is now a fully living, breathing body. This is most likely after Lazarus is resurrected, which would be very, very cool, by the way. Next, we have Big James getting into a fight. Now, this is a very climactic scene. We know Big James gets seriously injured. This is maybe what the disciples were looking at in that earlier scene where they all look distressed and wet, and we know that they get in the water later because of Big James's injury. We've seen in set photos that he has a towel wrapped around his head, and there's blood, and he's bleeding, and so obviously this big fight breaks out, and then Big James gets seriously injured because he pulls a knife on someone, a dagger, and John, you can see, is trying to stop him, but it seems that things don't work out super well for Big James, and he's in a little bit of distress and danger here. Next, we get this shot of what seems to be Quintus burning a parchment. Now, I can't exactly read what this parchment says, but Quintus is burning something, so I can't quite make out what this is going to be. Of course, obviously, let me know down below in the comments, but it'll be very interesting to see what Quintus is doing here. We have a shot of Smuel looking at something, maybe Caiaphas even. Now, the dialogue over here is very interesting. So Jesus says, "I know it's hard, man makes it much harder when he leans on his own understanding." Next, we have a shot of Jesus outside of Lazarus' tomb. What appears to be Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. You can see Mary and Martha there. They're both wearing black and they're mourning, so it's after Lazarus is dead. This is pretty clearly supposed to be indicating Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead, which is awesome. You can also see right there, Big James has that head covering that I talked about earlier. He obviously gets very injured in the head, and he has a staff, a walking stick now, so he gets injured definitely. So we'll have to see what exactly goes on in this big fight in season 4. Then finally, we have a shot of Zebedee, Simon Z, and Andrew all looking pretty nervous about something that we can't see what it is. From here, we get into a lot of stuff, so let's go ahead and roll that next clip.
I dread what is to come.
Whew, a lot of stuff in that clip, but we're going to have to pause it and take a look at everything. So, first of all, we have Jesus healing the blind man, as I told you is going to happen, so there it is. See, I told you. Then we have a scene of Jesus and the disciples coming to the Chosen's Jerusalem set, which I have been on that very set where they're standing, and I think this scene is supposed to be what looks to be, maybe this is the beginnings of that big fight that Big James gets hurt in, although that seems like it's in a different place, so we'll have to see. I think there's multiple fight scenes this season, which is funny. This is a very intense scene, maybe breaks out, because you can see some Pharisees there already, so we'll have to see what this scene is, but it's very interesting anyways. We get a shot of Salome practicing her dance. This is from a scene that we also saw earlier this year in a live stream. Very, very cool. Very excited to see Salome's dance in that scene. Then next we have a shot of John and Andrew arm wrestling. Now this is a very discreet reference to a short film that Dallas did for his church, Vertical Church Films, when he was doing short films with Jonathan Rumi. Dallas did this short film called Who Do People Say That I Am? Probably search up Who Do People Say That I Am, Vertical Church Films. You can find it. It's a short film that Dallas did. And in that short film, John arm wrestles Thaddeus, actually, and Thaddeus beats John. So maybe that's a spoiler for who wins this arm wrestle, but it's Thaddeus, not Andrew. I wonder why Dallas switched it, but either way, it's a cool reference to Dallas's earlier work. You know, very, very cool, and I'm excited to see this arm wrestle go down in season 4. Then we have these shots of Jesus mourning. Now, I think he just heard the news that John the Baptist has been beheaded, and he's very, very sad about it. And we can see behind him, out of focus, is someone, maybe the person who delivered the news to him, although I can't tell who this person is. If someone we've seen before, I can't tell because he's out of focus, and I can't see it. But if you know who it is, or if you think you know who it is, be sure to let me know down below in the comments, definitely. We get a shot of Jesus and the disciples all huddled around a dinner table talking, and we see Mary and Tamar looking on, all looking happy, which is good to see. We know we like to see happiness when we don't get very much of it in season 4. It's very nice to have people smiling. You know, I like it. Makes me happy. We get shots of what looks to be a continuation from that scene earlier where Jesus is preaching. He just looks up to heaven, and we see the disciples looking at Jesus. Then we get a very interesting scene in what looks to also be Lazarus' house. You can see the same curtains and what looks to be the same chair as the shot of Judas earlier counting the money. So I think this is Lazarus' house. I've been in there, and I think this looks to be what that is. And the disciples are all playing instruments here. There's going to be a musical scene in the show. You know, there's always been the joke in the fandom for a while of, you know, starting the band, because all of the actors are very, very talented. It's kind of unfair. And in particular, Austin Allerman, who plays Nathaniel, he is a very musical person. He played the keyboard at ChosenCon this past weekend. He was very, very good, and he's a musical person. He's very talented, so he was very happy to get to show off his musical skills in this scene, whatever this scene is going to be in The Chosen. And again, we love these moments of levity in this very dark and depressing season, so I can't wait to see it. Then we get a Roman official moving very quickly, riding a carriage. We don't know who this Roman official is. I can't quite make him out, but it'll be interesting to see who this is anyway in season 4. Then we get this interesting shot of Thomas on the ground, very, very distressed and very upset. So maybe he got rejected by Rama's father, or something happened that was really, really bad. I mean, we can tell it's Thomas because it's his same outfit. We know for a fact. And we can see an arm there, which looks unclothed, so it might be Simon. And I know there's going to be a scene where Simon and Thomas are talking to each other. So maybe this is something that goes down. Maybe he got rejected by Raymond, and he's feeling very, very distressed about it. Either way, Thomas looks upset, guys. And we should be worried about him. I'm worried to see what exactly is happening here. Next up is a shot that I told you about earlier where Big James is being rushed into the water. So I think maybe he's bleeding and gushing blood. So they're trying to get him to the water to clean him off. Maybe that's what's happening here. Well, that's what looks to be what's happening. He's being carried by 2 disciples. So Big James gets seriously hurt in this season. And it's something he's going to have to recover from. Then next up, we have a shot of Jesus opening some curtains, maybe in Lazarus' house. I don't know where this is, but it looks cool anyways. And finally, we have John the Baptist throwing these rocks into the air. And John the Baptist is outside roaming free. So I don't know what exactly is happening here because he's supposed to be, detained and being beheaded. So I don't know what he's doing here. So be sure to let me know what you think down below in the comments. Also over this, we have Jesus saying, "I dread what is to come," which is him dreading the crucifixion, obviously. He's feeling it in this season. And finally, let's roll the final clip of the Season 4 teaser trailer.
Storing rings in.
For my soul.
So we have Thomas lighting something on fire here. You can see the other disciples in the background. It's unclear. I can't make out what he's lighting on fire here with a wooden stake, but either way, it's obviously very interesting. We have voiceover of the story nearing its end. So the final thing we have to talk about is, as you can see on that title card, all episodes of Season 4 are going to be released in theaters. And we have release dates for all of those episodes. A quote from People Magazine. People Magazine wrote an article about this, so it's an exclusive. So I'll read it to you right here. The Chosen's theatrical rollout of Season 4 in theaters will start with a 2-week run of episodes 1 through 3 on February 1st, followed by episodes 4 through 6 in theaters starting February 15th. Finally, episodes 7 and 8 will debut in theaters beginning February 29th. After its theatrical run, The Chosen's 4th season will make its way to streaming platforms, aka the Chosen app. So, there you have it. There is the release date for The Chosen Season 4. I could not be more excited. This trailer was epic, and it was emotional. This trailer was awesome, and I could not be more excited for The Chosen Season 4. So, if you agree, be sure to let me know down below in the comments how hyped you are for The Chosen Season 4. Make sure, if you haven't already, to subscribe and turn on all notifications for tons of updates on The Chosen, everything related to The Chosen Season 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, and anything they do after that. I'm going to be talking about The Chosen a lot. Next up will be my video about my experience in ChosenCon, so you do not want to miss that. That video is going to be cool. I'm going to be showing off everything that happened at ChosenCon, almost everything that happened at ChosenCon. There are some secret things, but that video will be coming this week soon. So be on the lookout for that, and I will see you guys in my next video.